Hello, I'm Rob, and this is a poem that I wrote with the good people of Escape Arts. Goes like this. At Escape, we make everybody welcome. Bring your sense of fun. It's easy to join in and you can make yourself at home. We'll take you as you are with the skills that you've got. You never have to feel like you need to be something you're not. And now we can slowly start to meet in person. Let's take a moment to reflect in quiet celebration of all the things we did before COVID. All the coffee and cakes, races with pancakes, recycling CDs to make bees, stuffing scarecrows and Lego videos, dressing up for the annual Shakespeare walk, making dolls out of wooden spoons and teaching them to talk. It feels great to be able to paint a sunset on a table. We had paper moon on Tuesday afternoons. People would come together and shine, creating pottery, art and textiles. We'd also relax and while away the time. In the old birthday shop, we had a cupboard in every room and every single one was full of stuff because we make great things out of rubbish and we couldn't make enough, even with the glue gun that consistently failed to stick and sometimes burned your fingers. These memories happily linger. We made a mosaic for the garden in the youth hostel. We recycle everything, wallpaper and bottles. We dive into skits and find endless treasures. It's a key role, a skill we've honed over the years. The things we retrieve have a new lease of life. It's amazing how much you can cram in your car and still drive. As part of the River Festival, we actually created Neptune and made fish out of rubbish. We created artwork for Chiltern Railway's timetable with a lovely rainbow over Stratford, and that went national. We've distributed garlands to sell. We did willow weaving and that went really well. And the karaoke, where it was impossible to feel desultory. The clients would choose their favourite songs and dancing would be compulsory. People knew all the words and you just couldn't stop them. They'd step up to the mic and you'd suddenly see them blossom. Sarah and Anne took us all by surprise the time they danced to Morecambe and Wise. Our events give our volunteers a chance to let their hair down after dragging huge recycled creatures and sculptures through town, or sailing through it on a pirate ship, or closing roads to transport Igor the Giant, or racing in the Bard car, or diving into skips. It often ends in trouble with our Tudor pub landlord and getting thrown in the slammer for pickpocketing the mayor in the town hall. But Tudor Bob did great to work with appendicitis, and we promise you it wasn't the beer at all. Some of the most memorable events of all would have been Mary's annual birthday parties at the town hall. Even at 100, she was always perky and bright, as long as you got the temperature of the milk just right. We do a lot of dressing up, from Peter Pan to Captain Hook to fairies and Tudors, disco dancers and soldiers to Santa and his elves. We decorated the bus to look like Santa's grotto and thoroughly enjoyed ourselves, bringing joy and cheer to families to dispel the winter gloom. Karen wore a chicken costume to the volunteers' party at Easter. We all scoffed when she dressed as a witch and all the warts dropped off. That was at the Halloween disco, where Paul was covered in bandages and gore, and furthermore, he'd often turn up with several hip flasks containing different types of fluid. You wouldn't know where to start. Andrew dressed as Frankenstein. Now, he was a very big fella, so he really looked the part. We had to buy an emergency inflatable ring for Joe's 1920s swimming costume because you could see everything. We turned a toilet into a museum, the world's smallest exhibition, all about Stratford's public toilets. The council had a plan to close them, and Cyril, the ex-mayor, was determined to spoil it. So we had an exhibition and a protest with a chocolate log and lots of tea, which made a lot of people want the loo, which meant a queue. So getting into the exhibition was not an easy thing to do. We've brought to life untold stories from Stratford's bygone days, bringing characters from the past to life in incredible ways. We made friends with the land girls and turned their dresses into living histories of their experiences and stories, like Iris, who accidentally drove the tractor backwards on her first day on the farm. We had a World War II wedding with Bill standing in his groom after we twisted his arm when the real one scarpered. We had land girl bridesmaids and young volunteers creating land army recruitment marches, and Mark, a fantastic actor who took a break from Naughty Landlord to play a wartime vicar. We won the Queen's Award for volunteering. So there we were in the town hall. It was a lovely do with buffet and raffle and dignitaries too. Our award was presented by the Lord Lieutenant of Warwickshire, who seemed so happy we'd had quite a strong hunch that he'd taken quite kindly to Neve's homemade punch. Of course, we can't have so many triumphs without the occasional disaster. Now and again things go wrong, and whenever fate proves to be a fickle old master, we always try and pop out of it with a smile and a song. The Sainsbury's van was reversing one day, and our beloved donkey got in the way. Our own moving trolley dolly donkey made of chicken wire and hessian, the perfect donkey for any occasion till the Sainsbury's van flattened it and poor old little donkey couldn't be saved. At least Sainsbury's compensated us in cash, whereas when McDonald's ran over our bikes we didn't even get a Big Mac, and we know this because Alex asked. And whenever things seemed to be in danger of feeling a little too calm, we had the world's most sensitive smoke alarm that went off whenever we made potatoes or toast or even thought about smoke or looked at the oven in a certain way. It would make the most alarming din, usually when the VIPs were in, and it would make everybody's day. We still welcome the group into our happy family, but now we use the slow cooker for reasons of our sanity. Martin is also one of our beloved Santas, and when visiting the George Eliot Hospital in Nuneaton, they took one look at his waistline and put him on a bed to check his vital signs. Then, a few mornings after his elves had been obliged to push his bus up a hill, the starting motor was fixed and all was fine until they were just coming off the A46 when Santa turned to his elves and said, "Now, I don't want you to panic, but the brakes have gone. Merry Christmas, everyone." The brake connector melted like butter on a hot scone. If there's one thing we've learned, it's not to arrange anything on the 16th of December. Before you even think about it, take caution and remember what happened a few Christmases ago when Santa crashed a bus on his birthday. He was driving along with the elves and kids going on his merry way when he took a corner slightly too wide, hit a car parked illegally, knocked it to one side. He managed not to swear as a door flew through the air, and for the sake of kids and their innocent souls, Santa and their elves somehow stayed in role, a fit for which they should have received a BAFTA, particularly when the police arrived and failed to contain their laughter. It takes spirit to shout ho 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 when circumstances are so bruising. The car owner was seen later in the chippy by one of the elves, and even he found it amusing. Last year, we had to do Christmas differently because of COVID. We were quite restricted, so what we did was turn the conservatory into a grotto and have Santa appear on Zoom. Unfortunately, the electrics blew and made the room colder than Lapland, so we huddled up in blankets and hoped folk would understand. Meanwhile, some elves delivered presents to the wrong family who had recently moved house and were a little bit perplexed by this unexpected generosity. When they saw these gifts presented at the door, they looked at the elves and said, "Really? Are you sure?" "Oh yes," said the elves, but later, alack, they had to do a walk of shame and get the presents back. At the beginning of the first lockdown, we wanted to raise people's spirits. So Karen and Martin, two of our volunteers who are in a relationship, kindly agreed to run a weekly choir session on Zoom. They would play the accordion and sing, and people would join in from their living rooms. It wasn't always possible to sing in tune because the internet would cause a delay, but we all got to like singing "Let's Go Fly a Kite" and doing those actions to YMCA, and we might have sounded like cats in hell for eternity, but it brought us together in times of fear and uncertainty. We had so many empty shops this time last year when everything stopped, so we put displays in windows where people could gaze and see a space filled with poppies or stars at Christmas, a visual representation of people coming together when COVID kept us apart. Before, there were just mannequins in varying states of undress, which has a creepy effect on the heart. Of course, Escape would not be the beast that it is without the people who volunteered so much of their service. Paul officially has the finest laugh in the vicinity. It goes through you like a bass speaker attached to your diaphragm. He's an amazing gardener and a delightful man. He's won Stratford in bloom. He's simply without peer. He's filled the secret garden and given felt pets to volunteers. And then we have Ronnie, the prolific maker of cakes. We'll never tally the amount that she's baked for Escape. She's also knitted everything that could spring to mind, from flowers and veggies to birds and butterflies. Our volunteer stitchers and knitters are all pretty special, making scrubs and baby bonnets for Warwick Hospital. Our volunteers are our lifeblood. They've given so much time and pleasure. They're the soul of the organisation, and the difference they make is impossible to measure. From veterans to midwives, butchers and bikers, we hold their stories dear because they were such amazing characters. It's the kindness they show that gives Escape its whole, and when we have to say goodbye, they leave a gaping hole. We will always remember Graham with his smile and chatter, Mark the butcher. The ladies loved his tales and his massive chopper, and on hand to help with any occasion was Debbie with her nails, who loved to dress up and would make you smile without fail. Graham volunteered with Escape for 2 years solidly. He had a lovely calm nature and he loved his jokes with Josie. He supported Alice delivering the after-school art. Even when the kids wrapped themselves in loo roll, he never lost heart. On the bus with Lorraine, he was a reliable chuckle brother, and when we said, "Graham," he always knew he was about to do us a favour. We always think of him whenever we use his ladder, and he never dressed up, but he'd have made a great Santa. What we miss most is his wicked sense of humour and sense of dedication. Young and old adored him, and he lifted the spirits of the whole organisation. And Mark the butcher, one of Escape's biggest characters, after a livelihood of chasing pigs around roundabouts and going to Henson's office building and evacuating stuck cows, he gave talks about the history of the Escape and Heritage Centre, which used to be a slaughterhouse. He was never short of a prank when the chance was at hand. Yes, he'd send new employees to the bakery to ask for a long stand. He was so generous with his time, and he loved to regale as many as possible with his wonderful tales. Debbie always looked incredibly glamorous, with newly dyed hair and her fingernails painted different colours. She always knew how to make an impression, and she'd paint heathers for her outside of the session. If you go to the yard near the Escape Arts and Heritage Centre, you'll see some giant wings made by a willow artist called Spencer. We've called it Debbie's Wall and dedicated the artwork to her memory because she was such a valuable member of the Escape family. So, butchers, veterans, land girls, we remember all of you. Your voices and your memories are a fundamental legacy of what we do. So, whether your bus has broken down or you're feeling a bit dour, or you've just walked in on Bob, who's been on the loo for the last hour, your glue gun has put your warts on all wonky, or you've just performed CPR on a mortally wounded Hessian donkey, we're a very jolly family where everyone is valued. We give safety and friendship and something to look forward to. It's a very happy form of humbling, and it relieves your distress to create stuff from nothing and have a good mess. So hop over any time, bring your buttons and your bottle tops. We'll take you as you are, with all the skills that you've got.